Good evening. We'd like to call to order the Bedford Township Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting for today, April the 4th. We'll start with an introduction of members. Start down there to the left with Mr. Helm.
I'm John Strick.
Bob Potter.
Jeff Wilson, BZA member.
Joe Gord, Township Trustee.
Katrina Ingram, Planning and Zoning.
Phil Goldsmith, Township Attorney.
Jody Rector, Planning and Zoning.
Okay, we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And Ms. Rector, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Helm.
Here.
Mr. Strick.
Here.
Mr. Potter.
Here.
Mr. Gore.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
All present.
Next, we move on to approval of tonight's agenda. Looking for a motion for tonight's agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of last month's meeting, or excuse me, our last meeting on February 7th of 22. Looking for a motion to approve last month's, the last meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 7th, 2022 meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we'll ask for a motion to open the public hearing regarding the appeal of Shauna Horvath, 8243 Monroe Road, Lambertville, Michigan, 48144, requesting a variance to allow a temporary structure in an R3 LVOD one-family residential zoning district within Lambertville Village Overlay District per section 400.1903 accessory buildings on land described as 5802-019-140-00, otherwise known as 8243 Monroe Road, Lambertville, Michigan, 48144.
Is that your motion? If it is, I'll support it.
All right.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
And let's see. Hearing. Okay. Mrs. Horvath, is there anything that you'd like to? I'm sorry. Apologize. Mrs. Rector, could you read the details of the requested variance, please?
Yes. Again, the applicant is Shauna Horvath, 8243 Monroe Road, Lambertville, Michigan, 48144. Same location for the site address. Current zoning, R3, in the Lambertville, single-family residential located within the Lambertville Village Overlay District. Parcel 5802-019-14000, approximately 1.91 acres. Per section 400.1702B, Lambertville Village Overlay District, B1. For parcels having a residential underlying zoning district, those uses permitted as a principal use in a C1 and C2 district and mixed-use development shall be permitted as principal uses, provided that the parcel is contiguous on at least one side to a buildable parcel or a portion of a buildable parcel that is zoned or used for commercial use or is contiguous to a parcel that contains an existing mixed-use development. This subject site is contiguous to the Lambertville Civic Club, which is being considered as a commercial use. The previous letter from Pastor Gary Singer of God's Grace Church, 8240 Monroe Road, dated 12/3 of 2016, permitting Ms. Horvath to utilize the parking lot of the church indefinitely. And we did include that letter for anyone that was a new member. For Liberty Farm of Lambertville, for additional parking until some event or necessity dictates a change. The applicant is seeking another 2-year approval to place a 20 by 40 temporary structure on the southeast side of the existing accessory building. Per section 419.03.2, temporary accessory buildings and/or structures shall not be permitted of any size unless approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals prior to the placement, and upon approval of the Board of Zoning Appeals, the applicant must secure a valid Bedford Township building permit. Per section 400.22041C, permitted temporary buildings and uses shall not exceed a period of 2 years in undeveloped sections of the township and for periods not to exceed 6 months in developed sections. Per section 419.03, a 10-foot structure to structure setback and a 5-foot setback from the side yard property line are required in a residential zoning district. Per the submitted plot plan, the location of the temporary structure meets both requirement setbacks. However, it should be noted that the applicant shall continue to work with the building department and fire department to comply with all building and fire codes, as the Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the authority to grant a variance from building and fire code requirements. The applicant has provided a letter stating the request is to allow the temporary structure from May through October for 2 years. The applicant has indicated as the use has become more popular over the years, it's become more difficult to set up and take down a temporary structure in a timely manner to accommodate each event. The applicant is seeking the board to consider allowing Liberty Farm of Lambertville to continue its success and permit the temporary structure for the requested additional time frame. On the previous approval dated 3/2 of 2020, there was a motion by Steiner, supported by Wilson, to grant the temporary structure conditioned upon addressing a step to gain access to the building, which is not accessible by the current building code, and it must meet code. The code does not allow for a plumbing fixture where the walls do not get rinsed on every use. This must be upgraded according to a legal fixture. A life safety plan, accessibility, toilet room facilities, plumbing facilities shall be upgraded to meet code and to be completed by a design professional in the state of Michigan. Building Department will review and issue permits to meet all requirements of the 2018 International Fire Code and the 2015 Building Code. And all safety regulations, as stated in the building official submitted letter, compliance must be achieved at all times, and regarding to noise ordinance should not be in compliance. The variance should be revoked. The applicant has continued to work with the building department on compliance of the previous approval through dealing with the difficult times and the restrictions of COVID-19. At this time, no letters or calls of objection have been received. However, the applicant has supplied 7 letters of no objection, with 2 informational that were from the previous request. Planning Department has verified with the Ordinance Department that there have been no concerns or complaints submitted to the Township. Should the request be granted, the following variances are required: to allow a temporary structure for 2 years of 2022 and 2023, May through October, as requested, conditioned upon meeting all requirements of the previous approval of 2020, and the applicant continue to work with the Building Department on compliance. And I just wanted to add, I know that Mr. Kohler is here tonight, but she has continued to work, and as soon as those restrictions from COVID-19 were lifted, through those difficult times, it did give her somewhat of a setback of moving those projects forward, but she has since moved forward with Dennis Kohler in the building department and is working currently to address those. And she did supply tonight showing that she has worked on some concrete trying to get for the accessibility of for barrier free. So if once you've let the public make comments, if she wants to include anything further, but she is working with the building department.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rector. Now we'd open up, open it up to the public comment. If anybody would like to come up to the podium and. Okay. Ms. Horvath, would anything that you'd like to add? You can, if you want to come up to, just because it's online for people to watch and things, just so everybody can hear.
We're in the process. We are adding the restrooms. Literally, my husband and I just built the structure this weekend.
Oh, you can pull that mic around to you. There you go.
We're adding the restrooms. We just built the structure this weekend. The plumbing is getting finalized this week and finished up. The electrical is getting finished up this week. The sewer and water is going in this week. So there's a lot going on, but it will all be ready to go before we open on May 1st.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Any questions for Ms. Horvath? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm seeing there are no other public comments at this time. I look for a motion to close the public comment.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So I guess looking through the application, this was one of the first meetings I was involved in when the last time that this was approved. And I know that there were a few items, I think from Mr. Kohler, that they wanted to have addressed, and it sounds like those have begun to become addressed. And it sounds like, we've got at least another month or so to take care of everything. And then there had been a comment, I think in the past there maybe had been some comments regarding some neighbors with, or maybe one with some noise and things that I think you worked out maybe at the end of the last meeting, as I recall, just kind of working through that. And sounds like there haven't been any since that time, so that's obviously all good. I don't know, Mr. Kohler, if you have any additional comments regarding the work that's being done. That
Just that she's got a good plan, and she's starting with the bathrooms, so they should be up and running when she's open. But nope, she's working with it very nicely.
Okay. And I think, just so I remember correctly, I think last time, Mr. Goldsmith, we talked about practical difficulty. Just, when you read through that, right, that you have the whatever event it may be that you have to kind of be ready for on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you'd have to take Monday to tear down, and then you basically have 1 or 2 days essentially of downtime when you'd have to get a crew back out to put everything back up. I mean,
It makes a little or no sense to go through that procedure. If the applicant wanted to do that, she wouldn't be here necessarily to ask for this variance. So if the structure was going up and down, but it makes no sense to do that because there's only a few days out of the week, given her schedule with an event almost every weekend. So yes, that would qualify as a practical difficulty. The use is an allowed use within that overlay district. And I think the biggest concern was the last time there were certain modifications that had to be done to comply with the building code. Dennis was on top of that, and it sounds like everything is in progress to achieve those compliance items. So it looks good.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I just thought it was helpful for everybody else to understand, I guess, at least what the basis for the last time was. So thank you. Any additional comments? Any thoughts from anyone else? Questions?
I have a question. This has been okayed twice before, is that correct?
Once before.
Once before, and then she was granted 2 years at that meeting.
Okay, so this is kind of redundant based on what happened before, assuming that all the utility and everything upgrades are performed. And am I reading that correct?
Yes, and the reason she has to come back is it's required by ordinance because it's a temporary structure and she wants to be able to leave it up instead of putting it up and taking it down each event. So it's required by ordinance for a temporary structure that she has to be presented and granted the variance to allow the structure to maintain on the site from her time frame of May through October. And the ordinance does allow for an extension of a year. So that's why every 2 years she would have to come back until she determined if she wanted to put a permanent structure up.
And that was my question. It's been redundant for this going on the second time, correct?
This would be the second time, and
Right.
she's asking for another 2 years.
Yep.
Not sure how much use she was able to make of it the last 2 years due to COVID, but probably sporadic at best.
That's understandable.
So for the motion, do you want dates in there, like, or just go mid-May through October, or like May 10th through October 31st?
I think she had specific dates in there.
I was looking back through there.
And it would, in my mind, it may make sense to, go to the far end of those a bit.
Maybe for calendar years 2022 and 2023 from May 1 until end of October. Does that make sense?
Somebody might want a Halloween wedding, I guess, probably, right?
There you go. Yeah.
I think she's had it in there specific. Where was that at?
I think last time she gave specific dates of May through October.
Yeah.
But if the board's desire was just to say, as Mr. Goldsmith said, May through October, if she got another event scheduled at the end of October, she'd be permitted to have it then.
That's what, yeah, on the, doesn't have page numbers, but it was, the request was for 2 years, 22 and 23, May through October.
Okay.
Actually, what was written here is pretty good. Condition upon meeting all requirements of the 2020 and continue to work with building. I mean, that's a pretty good motion in
Start
itself.
right there, yeah. We don't have to add anything in there as long as it's in compliance with the code, fire code, or that it can be, you know, if we do get noise complaints, which we never have, and I worked afternoons and midnights for many years down here from 2016 till 2019, and I didn't even know the place existed, you know, on a Friday, Saturday night. So
You could make it your motion conditioned upon compliance with all building and fire code requirements, and if you wanted to put in there that any noise complaints would be brought to the attention of the applicant and dealt with appropriately.
that's all. I had some other questions, but I talked to Phil earlier and got them answered, so we're good.
Denny, are there, besides the restroom facilities, is there anything else that, I mean, is everything that you're going to require being taken care of?
We're working with her, yes.
Yeah.
She took care of the ramp inside. There was a step inside the building. They put a ramp inside the, they put a ramp in, I mean, they created.
Yeah.
You're not hearing me, but anyway, they cut the step down inside the building, so it's got a ramp from one elevation to another, and then the doorways are cut going out into the yards. So that's flush entrance on both doors, so.
Okay.
The accessibility is taken care of, and she's working on the bathroom, so.
All right. Thank
Yep.
you.
Anybody going to take a crack at it, or?
Sure, I will.
Okay.
I like to make a motion to grant the temporary structure application within the Family Residential Zoning District on land described as 5802, 019, 14000, otherwise known as 8243 Monroe Road, Lambertville, Michigan, 48144, for 2 years, 2022 and 2023, May through October, conditioned upon the valid Bedford Township building permit, compliance with all other building and fire codes, and compliance with all the requirements of the previous 2020 variance approval. And what was if there's any noise
complaints that the applicant it would be brought to the attention of the applicant and dealt with appropriately.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you, Phil.
Do we have a second?
And the
Oh, sorry.
practical difficulty being, it doesn't make any sense to set up and tear down that large of a tent every weekend, or because a day later you're going to have people come in and start putting it back together. Thank you.
I'll second.
Mr. Potter,
Aye.
Mr. Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Strict,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you, Mrs. Horvath. We will now move on to board and staff comments. Oh, sorry. Then we move on to the public comment. I'm sorry.
We got no public comment.
Seeing there is no one wanting to make a public comment, we can move on to the board and staff comments.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Potter and Mr. Strick for serving tonight. And that's all I have. The deadline isn't until the 18th, I think, for the next meeting. I don't know if it's working out for everybody, but if everybody's okay with that, if I send it out as soon as if we have it, since there is a deadline, at least gives advance notice if we're going to have a meeting. Thank you.
Nothing for me, thank you.
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
Just like to, if anybody's traveling this week, travel safe, enjoy spring break, and hopefully everybody has a happy Easter.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be a member of this board. This is my first official duty in this capacity, and I appreciate it. It's going to be a while before I learn everybody's names, and I'm not too good at it after that, but I appreciate being here and helping the community if I can.
Nothing for me.
And I'm pretty much mirror my neighbor's comment that thanks for inviting me back. It's always good to help out the township and see all you folks.
Yep. And I appreciate everybody helping me stumble through this. So,
You did good.
all right. Thanks. We'd look then for a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I go to